To the Boone Podcast. I'm Bret Boone. Today on the program, I'm joined by a gentleman I met through a mutual friend, Mike Tice. We both played in the Mike Tice charity golf event. It happens once a year in the Seattle area. He's a part of a legendary family in the NFL. He's a two-time Super Bowl champion, currently coaching with the Las Vegas Raiders. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a long entry.
Man, that is.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Rob Ryan. Rob, thanks for coming on the program.
Oh, great to be here, Brett. I tell you, I know one thing. You played a whole lot better golf than I did the last time I saw you, and man, I'm just want to apologize for all the people that I hit out there on that golf course.
You play it all? You just do it for a charity event, or are you a golfer? You're not a golfer, and you.
Oh no, free time, I mean the only time I golfed was when I was coaching for the Cardinals, but that was 100 years ago. So yeah, I play once a year, and apparently not very good anymore.
The Ryan family, the Boone family, we've got some things in common. Different sports, but difference is, and I checked this out. You guys got 5 rings. We've only got 3. Dad has 2, and Grandpa has 1. Aaron and myself, to this point, we're shut out. So we'll see going forward. I'm interested in talking to you about. Okay, I've got 2 siblings. I've got Aaron, who's 4 years my junior, and I've got a younger brother, Matthew, who's 10 years younger than me. So our growing up schedules were kind of different. Aaron was that kid that kind of hung around the older guys when I would allow him. But actually, my buddies really liked Aaron growing up, and they said, "Yeah, let Aaron tag along." So it was kind of that. We never got to play with each other on a team until we got to the big leagues in 1998. We got a chance to play together in Cincinnati. That was pretty awesome. But up until then, we had never, I was a senior in high school. He was getting ready to come to high school. So we never crossed paths as far as competing on the same field until we were adults. I have fraternal twins. I know your fraternal twin is Rex. Probably a different childhood growing up. Aaron was kind of my younger brother. I took care of him. I looked out for him. We didn't really fight. There was no rival because he was so much younger than me. Talk to me about growing up with Rex Ryan in a football family.
Well, I mean, it was awesome. I mean, you know how football families are. They're kind of like military families. You move around all the time. But the nice thing is you always took your best friend with you. So, it was an easy transition wherever we went. We're like, hey, well, there's my best buddy, and it was Rex. So, I mean, it was great. And then, of course, we competed in everything we did. We'd compare batting averages, who made the most tackles. With Rex, it was the most missed tackles. But we always, I mean, it was an awesome childhood. There's a rumor of somebody took somebody's ACT to get him in school, but he claims dyslexia, so he needed a little help. But it was awesome. I mean, honestly, you can't have a better childhood than we did. And just like with your father, you grow up around the game, and the guys playing the game are the best people in the world. They're the alpha males. They're the best people, and shoot, they'd be showing up to our road baseball games and high school football games, and then you get absolutely crucified by them in a locker room in front of their buddies. But it was a great childhood. It was a great way to be brought up, and shoot, we ended up you getting a chance to coach in the NFL. Was it nepotism that got us in? Absolutely. But once you're in there, you got to do the job yourself. And both of us, coached over 20 years in the NFL. I'm wanting to get to 30. And Rex's son, he has a son that's coaching. Should have got to the Super Bowl this year. He's coaching with the Lions. And then my son's just going to get into it next fall. So, in the league. So we're all excited about it. And it's been a great, great run for us for sure.
Was there a rivalry growing up?
Well, I mean, there was when we played on opposite sidelines. In college, I used to wear them out. I was at Okie State. He was at Oklahoma. Oklahoma State never beat Oklahoma. Oh, we did. We did. We beat them twice there. And then back when I was at Tennessee State, we played him at Morehead State. We beat him there. I mean, I was running things in college. Then I got to
That
the pros, and I'm
Go
like, I
ahead.
don't
Go ahead.
know what happened. He flipped the script on me. I mean, it was ridiculous. I couldn't beat him out there. So, but we played a lot. Now I'm 500 against my nephew Seth. So he beat us this year, but I got him the year before on like a 65-yard field goal to set a record. But definitely a rivalry for sure.
I think it's awesome because within my family, and we've had different scenarios, different at different times of our lives. I was always over the top supportive for my brother uh, until I played against him. We were teammates for a brief time. We played against each other. I came up in the minor leagues when I got drafted in 1990. My dad was just retiring from his career, and he was about to pursue a managing career. So his first job was the AAA job for the Oakland A's, which was Tacoma, Washington, which was in my league. So I started right away. I'm playing against dad. And as much as I've always been that kid growing up watching, pulling for dad, I'll tell you what, I went to Tacoma, I wanted to kick the shit out of him. And I did.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, he would manage. It's almost like, with your dad, he wants nothing but the best. You're growing up, he's your biggest fan. I'm telling you, when I was on the other side of the field and he was managing, he wanted to beat me. So it's almost like he'd punch me out, and I'd look over and be like a fist pump in the dugout. Interesting. I played under my dad when he was a bench coach. That was cool. We'll get to that a little bit later. But here's I want to know if you go through this like I do. Okay, growing up, I'm always Bob Boone's son. I'm always Ray Boone's grandson. That's just the way it is. And very proud of them and what they've accomplished, and my family for that matter. I get to professional baseball. I establish myself, and now it becomes they're talking to dad, and that's your Brett's father. Grandpa, you're Brett's grandfather. Aaron was always my little brother. Now, fast forward to getting later in life, Aaron gets the Yankees job, and now we're all Aaron's brother. Oh,
Yeah.
that's Aaron Boone's dad. You know, I want to know how you get introduced because of all the
Oh
legacy in your family
gosh.
and the amount of tentacles out there in the football world. Buddy being your dad, how do you get introduced these days?
I was great with the yeah, that's Buddy's boy. I was great with that, but man, out of nowhere, Rex goes. He's a head coach of the Jets, and now oh, there's Rex's brother. I'm like, man, come on, it's my twin
Right.
brother. Stop already. But yeah, I pretty much I get called Rex about half the time. From people out there. Hey, I know you. You're Rex Ryan. I'm like, I don't even stop. I just keep going. Like, stop already. But no, it's funny. I mean, both of them have chances to be head coaches in the National Football League, and obviously both were very successful. But nobody compares to my father. He was the best defense coach that ever laced them up, and I don't think there's an argument there. Some people see Bill Belichick. Well, just look at the numbers, and you'll see a difference. And also the play style. I mean, he brought a play style to the National Football League they never saw. So always proud of him. I think just having a twin brother that's been really successful has been great. The biggest thing, my goal is, hey, I want to be the longest tenured Ryan, and also win the most Super Bowls. Right now, I'm tied with my father at 2. Rex only has 1. We're not real proud of him. But so we're taking, and then Seth almost got 1 now. So all of a sudden, this kid's coming out of nowhere. But I think with AP running things out with the Raiders now, we're heading to greatness, and we're looking forward to getting that done, and also being the longest tenured Ryan. My dad coached for 28 years. I want to beat that.
It is kind of like the family business. Boone family, it's like, well, you're probably going to be a baseball player. This is what you do. It was never forced upon me. It was kind of introduced and say, we hope you love it. Actually, my grandpa was my earliest influence. And and from day one, it's all I ever wanted to do. Growing up, Buddy being your dad, were your aspirations, I want to be a football player, or I want to be a coach like Pops.
No, I mean, here's the thing, the big difference between the Boone family and the Ryan family. The Boone family has unbelievable talent to play the game. The Ryan family, we were
Different
strategic
though.
guys. We weren't
Right.
very talented, but we were tough, but we weren't talented enough to play in the league. So, so that was the biggest difference. But obviously, from day one, when we moved in with my father, my mom and dad were divorced, so we were like the worst kids in the world in Canada. So they moved us out of there, and so my dad saved our lives. I mean, he's like, "You kids are begging for discipline." We're like, "Oh man, hell no, we don't want that now, please." But trust me, we don't want this. But he used to call us professional paper boys. We delivered the morning and the afternoon paper. We never went to school. We were getting kicked out. I mean, so he had no choice but to take us. And when he did, it turned our life around. So obviously, we grew up idolizing him. We saw the respect he had from the players, and I mean, those are our buddies. Those are our friends. The guys that were playing on Sundays. So naturally led to us getting into coaching, and my father thought we were crazy. I mean, we had business opportunities, other places, we were great at ARA Food Service. We were killing it. And they, in the Philadelphia airport, they offered us full-time managing jobs. And my dad just thought we were absolutely nuts for turning them down. But we got into coaching and it seemed to work out.
You both started. The brothers, you and Rex, you started at Western Kentucky and Eastern Kentucky. I don't know if that was planned.
No, that was one spring break trip. So literally, we got in the car and went to get jobs, and I ended up getting Western Kentucky. He ended up getting Eastern Kentucky.
I don't know how much you did. How much did you lean on Dad? Because as a young player, you know how we go through different uh, parts of the life, and when we're kids, we want to do it on our own. We want to prove Dad. When I was a young player, when I first signed, all I heard was, do you feel the pressure to follow in the footsteps? I got sick of it after a while. And it was almost like, look at my numbers. I don't give a shit about Dad and Grandpa. Love them to death, but they're not going to get me where I'm going. So let's concentrate on me as a player. Once that's subsided and you establish yourself and you're in the league for a while, that's an afterthought. But I remember as a kid, just clawing, trying to find my own way. I used to resent it a little bit. As time moved on, in the professional, as a professional, man, me and Dad, we were awesome together. He was a hitting coach. I mean, he'd be working for another organization. I'd be in a slump. I'd send him a ticket. He'd fly. We'd meet under the grandstands after hours when no one was around because we didn't want to have that. You know how that coaching thing is. It's very
Oh yeah,
political. What's he doing working with our hitters?
sure.
Well, it's my dad. I'll work with whoever I want. By the way, if the peanut lady can help me get a hit, I'm going to bring her down into the cage too.
Yeah,
So,
no doubt.
but I really embraced it as I got into my career, and it became. I got a chance to play under him one time. He was a bench coach in Cincinnati. I thought it was going to be an absolute nightmare. Like Dad's going to be watching me. This was early in my career. Ended
Sure.
up being one of the funnest years I've ever had. He had an uncanny ability to separate father son from coach player. And when we'd walk through those gates at Riverfront Stadium, there was no father son to be found. It was coach player. Then once it was over, we had an off day. I got to have a father son moment. We used to go to lunch and have a good time, and I really appreciated him and how easy the transition he did make for me. Um, but I want to talk about my minor league side, your minor league. Kind of when you first started off, you were Western Kentucky, Ohio State, Tennessee State. Did you lean on Dad for advice and talk about that journey before you did get to the NFL? A lot of rentals. It's kind of
Yeah.
like you're a vagabond moving place to place.
Well, I mean, to get in first, I mean, it was, me and Rex, we didn't really knew anything. So, we knew from one day of X and Owen with my father, he was teaching us the family business, the 46. And so we knew that defense a little bit on paper, but we had never worked with players. We had never done any of that. So when we were just starting out, I mean, never knew much. But the crazy thing is, my first full-time job I got by using my dad's name. All right, let me tell you what happened. We're at a football clinic, a big national clinic out there in Nashville, and my dad's like, "Oh, you guys are going to go there. You're going to see a lot of kids just like you, young kids that don't have jobs, and it'll be good for you." We're like, "Ah, great. Okay, sounds great." Well, we go out there, and the first coach I saw there was Eddie Robinson, the great legend Eddie Robinson. And I'm like, "Hey, I'm telling Rex, I'm like, dude, I'm going to go up and introduce myself to Eddie Robinson." And he's like, "You ain't going to introduce yourself to him." I go, "Watch this shit. I'm going to." Walk right up. "Hey, Coach Robinson, Rob Ryan, Buddy Ryan's son." All right. So this, like, he goes, "Well, what do you know about the 46 defense?" I'm like, "Man, I know everything about the 46 defense." He goes, "Really? Why don't you show me and my staff tonight about the 46 defense in my room?" All right. So I go there 3 nights in a row. I'm in there with Eddie Robinson, the Hall of Fame coach, and his staff. Keep going over this defense. And out of nowhere, I'm walking out, and it's like, man, this is a chance in a lifetime to be around a Hall of Famer. I'm walking out, and a coach that my dad had coached with 100 years ago at University of Pacific goes, "Hey, I hear there's a job at Tennessee State. Maybe you should go get it." I'm like, "Hell, I'll try to get that job." So I call Eddie Robinson. I'm like, well, actually, I saw him at the deal. I go, "Hey, Coach Robinson, you think you maybe help me get this job at Tennessee State? It's a historical black college, and Eddie Robinson's the biggest guy in the world." And he's like, "Nah, son, I'm not gonna call and recommend you." I'm like, "Damn, man, I've been there all day. I'm gonna recommend you in person." What? Yeah. So we drove down to Tennessee State from Nashville, and he got me the job. So I guess it was, hey, I dropped the name. I don't know, but it worked out. But the first time we really got put in a situation where you felt pressure to back the name up and things like that was after we had about 9 years experience. Then my dad hired us with the Arizona Cardinals, and you know, uh, man, you felt pressure, with the name on your back. You want to do a great job. I was fortunate enough to coach a Hall of Famer, Aeneas Williams, and I love how he credits me. "Oh, you gave me confidence." I'm like, "Shit, I didn't do anything except cover that dude." But it was amazing. We disappointed Dad. We were number 2 in the league in defense. But I was coaching secondary. We led the league in the interceptions both years, and number 1, number 2 in pass coverage. So it kind of worked out. But believe me, you felt the heat of, man, your buddy's boys. You got to come through, and the rest is history. Now we think we're the best, and hell, we're just who we are. But at first, you definitely felt the fact that, man, this buddy's my dad and things like that. But another great story about that. I'm coaching for Sean Payton. He's a great football coach, and we lose a game 40 something to 30 something, and he's like, "That damn offense, they're terrible." Not that well. Actually, we stunk, but he was like our biggest fan. He was so positive, in the later years, and we could do no wrong, and my mother was opposite. She'd be like, "God, why did you blitz there? Why did you do this?" So, but it was funny. I mean, he was tough as nails. I know your father, was tough as hell. He had that mask, that old, big black mask that he played with, but
Yeah.
he's the only one in the league ever played with that thing. But it was great. I mean, it was cool to have that, and he was always back there. It's like, "Oh, goddamn, we should have played this." He never did that. It was, "Man, son, you were doing great out there," So, but eventually, kind of realized, "Oh, thanks, Dad, but all right, let's get it on. Let's get going."
That had to be pretty cool though, because at first, yeah, you've got that outside distract. You got people, oh, buddy, he's bringing his kids in. Well, at the highest level, usually by that time you're vetted, and if you're going to be an NFL coach, you've got the credentials and on your own. Doesn't matter who your dad is. He just thought, hey, my kids are good. Might as well have them along. Did you have times during those few years to have those moments I was talking about, like with my dad? It was awesome. I come to the ballpark and we did our own thing. I hung with the guys that I hung with, and he was a coach and he was in the coach's office. And when the game started, he sat on the bench next to the manager. We didn't interact. If I had something professional to ask him, hey, Dad, give me this last guy's, what's he done his last uh, three relief appearances? And, he'd go through the books just like any coach would.
Right.
But I did get to have those father son times too. He never pushed it on me. He always waited for me to come. Hey, Dad, we have an off day tomorrow. You want to have lunch? So I treasured those times, and we had all grown up at that point, and it was really cool. And it was the opposite I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like when Dad takes over your little league team. Oh yeah, why do you get to play short? Why do you get to hit third?
Right. Oh, no doubt.
Because that's how we always think. But at the professional level, it's beyond that. So, did
Yeah.
you have a similar experience? I know once you go to work and you probably didn't see him some days for a long time doing your thing. The
Right.
game comes to fruition. But did you enjoy that downtime when you weren't on the clock to kind of be able to hang with Dad?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, he was the best. He was such a great father. He really was. But I got to tell you this one. One of those moments. We're coming back from the combine and in Indianapolis, and it's the last day. The DB's working out. I actually ran the drills. I'm going to say I threw the ball well to fairly well. But anyway, I get on the plane and, been out all night long. And I'm going in the back, and there's Dad in first class. Hey, Dad, Pops, what's up? All right, so I go in the back, and on this plane, all of a sudden, I'm like, whoa, now there's some babe out there sitting across from me. So I tell Rex in Twin Talk, like, hey, there's some smoke show back here. Ah, yeah, whatever. So I don't do anything about it in typical Ryan fashion. But then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try to make a play. End up meeting this young lady, and she was beautiful. Now this girl was beautiful. So I'm walking out, and I drove. So we land in Arizona. Well, she's going to L.A. And I'm like, back then, I'm like, Dad, I'm going to walk this girl to her gate. He goes, oh, bullshit. So, walk that damn girl to the gate. And then he sees her and he goes, I'll take your time, son. Take your time.
Take
All
your
right.
time.
So that ended up working, but that's not the end of the story. I ended up marrying that girl. So it worked out. Pops was good. At least he let me go in there and, try to have a little game over there. So, but it worked out. But that was great. I mean, that's typical Dad, though. He was, man, he was tough on the outside, but he was phenomenal on the inside. And during the game, like you say with your father, he was all business. Now, believe me, there wasn't no, hey, Dad, let's do the bullshit. Yes, sir, Coach Ron. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It was on. He was the man, and it was a great experience, like you say.
I want to talk about the differences baseball, football. Baseball, for me, my experience, I've had a lot of guys that have touched my life through the ranks in a positive way. But as far as the actual coaching aspect, I think I've never played football at a high level, so I don't know for sure. But I think the coaching, the X's and O's, the preparation, it seems to me in the NFL it's a little more important than on the baseball side. Baseball coaches, the best I've had, the ones that have helped me the most, seem to be the best psychologists. How they got me into the frame of mind to succeed on a consistent basis. Not, oh, we're in the cage working on the physical side of the game. Very rare did I come across some guys, and there were a few that could help me the physicality of it, if you know what I'm saying. I can
Sure.
watch film all day long, but I'm usually my best critic on the film side. But from a psychologist side, I did have a couple guys throughout my career where they had the uncanny ability to walk by me when I was struggling and kind of ask me a question. I'd answer them. They'd give me a piece of advice. They'd keep walking, and I'd kind of be like, well, what was that all about? But then think, he's right. How did I not recognize that? Now all of a sudden, maybe I'm still struggling, but in my mind, wow, I got a chance now because of that little tidbit that he just gave me. That was the most important for me. Talk about coaching football at the highest level. Is it Ryan Magic, or does it have something to do with the talent level as well? Or is it a combo?
Well, I mean, I think obviously you have to have unbelievable talent to be in professional sports. The biggest thing is, as a coach, you have to be yourself. And I wasn't Buddy Ryan. I mean, I never led men into battle when I was 19 years old like he did. I mean, he was a hell of a lot fucking tougher than I was, and damn sure a hell of a lot tougher than Rex. But but we're ourselves.
There's
Like
that
we're
twin.
ourselves.
There's that twin right there.
Yeah, but the biggest thing about it is you have to be genuine. But I'm more of a connector in my coaching, and I have more experience than most people. I've been in the league 24 years now. Started 30 years ago, but it's something you recognize, and there's ways to build people's confidence up without it being a big deal. And it's something that if you believe in them, then you need to let those players know you believe in them, and they play better. I mean, when I say Aeneas Williams, I didn't know what I was doing, except hey, Aeneas, go cover that guy. But believe me, there was a lot of conversations over there where I believed he was the best in the league, and he ended up being a Hall of Famer, and then calling me out right before he introduced his wife at the Hall of Fame. One of my great thrills as a coach, to encourage me and to tell him how much I meant to him, which was amazing. But I've had a lot of success stories that way. Namdi Asamoah, who's a phenomenal actor now, by the way, which I knew that. I told him, man, Nam, you look great. You could be an actor, and he is. And he married a beautiful woman, but he needed a little confidence on playing man coverage, and he ended up being the best in the league during the time I was there in the '90s. Rex claims Revis was, but a lot of people agree with him. But Namdi was phenomenal. But all he needed was somebody there to pick him up a little bit. And we've had coaches that were tearing him down. I'm like, man, that's not the way you do this kid. And man, did he grow? So I think it's just coaching is just being honest. And the hours of coaching are great. I love them. I love the grind of coaching. Those 6 to midnight days every day for 7 months. People don't like it. I love it. Because if you can just give your player just one little edge, you definitely want to do that. So, because I wasn't going to help anybody, kick anybody's ass. I mean, man, I could tackle, but I keep my head up and bite the ball. But every coach in Little League's teaching the same thing. So I think it's more you do mentally. I think it's, obviously in baseball, I mean, I could never get a hit if I thought I couldn't.
Right.
And you know how that's such a mental game. And me and Rex, we were better baseball players than football players, but crazy, just one of those things. I mean, I remember going into a baseball game on deck. Rex is batting cleanup, and he's got one contact lens in, and this kid was bringing it, man. This high school kid named Gick, he was bringing it, and he's like, "Wait, hold, time out." He couldn't see, he couldn't catch up to the fastball. He's like, "Well, hold on. Rob, give me your right contact." All right, here's I stick it in his eye, and he goes up there and he hits a home run. This is no lie. This is a true story. Put it right over the fence, and it was like, holy shit, you just took that all-stater deep. And he comes out, he's like, Rob, here's your right contact. He's going to put it back in my eye. I'm like, hell, I'm going to strike out anyway. And sure enough, I did. But baseball is such a mental game, and I love it that way. But I think I carried those traits on to coaching football as well.
It is, and it's different. I laugh when people, well, they've got to be treated the same. Now, once you get to a high level, and the great managers, and I'm not saying coaching staff and managers in Major League Baseball, a lot different. The skipper's the skipper. And I watched the great ones. I got a chance to play for a few great skippers, and the great ones, it seemed to me, they had that right mix of, I've got to treat player X one way and player Y a different way to get the same conclusion. Because if I treat X like Y, man, X is going to quit on me. And if I
Right.
treat Y like X, I'm not going to get the most out of X. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Some guys need a kick in the ass and some guys need a hug to get that same result. Do you find that in the NFL?
Oh yeah. I mean, big time. I mean, these guys, they're the best people in the world. They're the alphas, but they're also different. I mean, everybody comes from a different walk of life. Everybody, you can see it though. Like I think that comes with experience of knowing people, knowing what motivates them. you can feel. It's not like, hey, write it down on a piece of paper and let me see what. Oh, this is a style of coaching you like. Well, that's not it. It's being around people, understanding how the dynamic works, and kind of seeing what you need to do, how you need to bring those people along, and I think the thing that's kept me and Rex in coaching for as long as we are is it's easy for us to do, and some people just have a hard time doing it.
All right, so let's break it down. Big league, you got your manager, you got the bench coach is basically your manager's right hand man. And from my experience, what a bench coach was, the great bench coaches is that skipper'd be sitting there. I'll give you a scenario. Lou Pinella's in the dugout. He'd turn to his guy. His bench coach for years and years was John McLaren. Johnny, what do you think? Bring in a lefty, bring in a righty, or bring in a lefty. Which one do you want? Well, that tells me Lou's thinking about bringing in the lefty. He just needs a little push.
Right.
Lou, I'd bring in Jones. Boom. His sounding board. Then you got the pitching coach. Then you got the hitting coach. Obviously, as an offensive player, I'm never dealing with the pitching coach. We usually get along because we never have any interaction about strategy or how to hit or how not to hit. So usually that's your buddy. Uh, Football, you got head coach, you got defensive coordinator, you got offensive coordinator, you got assistant coaches under that, linebacker coach, running back, receiver coach. Explain to me how the NFL system works. You've been in a bunch of different roles throughout your career.
Right.
Obviously, the head coach, offensive head guys, and then it trickles down. How does that? I guess the question is, how does it work? I'm going to put it simple.
Yeah.
How does it work?
I
How
mean,
does it go get passed down the line?
yeah, I think, the first thing is, like when you're saying head coach, I mean, I was fortunate enough. I worked for Bill Belichick. I worked for my father, two completely different people. I worked with Sean Payton. I worked for Al Davis. I don't know who the head coach was, but Al Davis was. So those
Yeah.
guys set the tone. They set the tone exactly. And this AP's a man, a superstar. Believe me. And I love the job he's done here with the Raiders because I'm a Raider at heart. I'm going to always be one. So, uh, but that they're the ones that set the identity for the whole team. And then you have offense and defensive coordinators that have their philosophy on how you're going to get things done. I was lucky enough to work for offensive coaches, when I was defensive coordinator, so it was great. Just they're going to say anything to you, so you just got to try to stop them. But that's how it works. And then the assistants, the way nowadays these staffs are gigantic, like they're just gigantic, and it's like, man, it's hard to deal with all of them, as the coordinator up front. So I learned, man, I broke those guys off in pods. I'm like, okay, here, I'm going to meet with these three guys on early downs. I'm going to have a third down specialist. I only meet with him. I'm going to have a rush guy and meet with him. So I had separate small meetings to advance the plan of the team. But that's how it works. And the big thing is identifying the strengths of your staff and then using them. I'm senior assistant. That just means I'm old, but I also am the last guy to talk to our defense every week. I'm a guy who preaches turnovers every day and gets after them. A guy who tries to connect our guys to play together as a unit. That's big responsibilities, and I enjoy the heck out. It's about the most fun I've had, in a long, long time of doing this role. I really enjoy it. But as long as everybody's pulling in the same direction, coaching is so much fun. It's so rewarding when you're around the right people. It really is enjoyable.
As a layman football guy, when I watch an NFL game, and it's probably this way for other people in other sports, uh, like how do they do that? How do they do that when for you it's old hat, it's no big deal. But I look at the complexity of being a coach in the NFL to manage all that personnel on the sidelines, have a game plan going in. You got your pregame. You got it seems like it's one day a week. That's why baseball's so different. We play every day. And it's like It's just another day. Where football, you got 18 games now, which is a lot of games. That's kind of weird for me to say 18 game schedule.
Yeah.
But it's
17. But
like it's or 17.
yeah.
It's once a week. And man, it's important that everything goes, because you lose one, that's like us losing 7 games. I don't know. It's like you're on defense, you're the defensive coordinator. Do you rest when your defense is off the field, or is that a time to know now we got to huddle up? We got to say what's going right, what's going wrong. Keep doing that. It's halftime. What goes on at halftime? It's for me, the layman. I watch you guys and I go, I don't know how they coordinate all this and get the play to the huddle where you have so many different people going so many different directions.
Yeah, I think you know, in college you can wait to halftime to make an adjustment. In the NFL, you have to do it right then and there. So as soon as you're off the field, you'll see guys huddling up, and what they're trying to do is, if there was a problem, you have to fix it and tell them how you're going to fix it. And if things went well, you got to say, okay, hey, look, I'm thinking about going with these calls, going forward. Patrick Graham, our defense coordinator now, he's from Yale. This guy's a big brain guy and all that. He is outstanding at doing that. He stays ahead of the game, but he tells the players what to look for, so they're not just hearing it for the first time when he calls it in the huddle. So the game constantly plays. You're absolutely exhausted mentally when the game's over. But I can compare. I know when I was coaching defense for Dallas, uh, basketball was on strike, and Rick Carlisle would bring his staff in to sit in my meetings because he's like, "This is so crazy. Like, how can you do this? There's so many guys, and yet, so he'd be there like 6 weeks in a row. It was awesome, and I was a Laker fan at the time, and they were getting ready to play, and I told the guys, I'm like, oh, hell, Dallas. I mean, I'm a Laker guy. So as soon as he came to our meetings, all DeMarcus Ware and all those guys, hey, Rob, aren't you a Laker fan? No, I'm a Maverick fan. But I end up loving Rick. Like, he is such a great dude. And what freaks me out, like just what, like talking to you baseball, man, I love baseball. So I can talk to you for hours on baseball. I just want to learn because it's such a different game. But I did the same. I took his whole staff out when he was coaching. I was coaching in New Orleans, and man, I just sat there for 2 hours at some steak joint, listening to all the stories they told. It was like one of the greatest nights of my life. But the jobs are different, but again, it's a people business, and in every sport you're in, you're with the most talented guys, and really, I always say the best people in the world, because they're such achievers, and it doesn't matter where you came from. You got to hit that baseball square, that round ball square, unbelievable, and you did it better than most. I mean, almost all, being an all-star, and football, it's the same way. You gotta get off, hit a 350-pound blocker, get off him, throw him on his face, and then go make a tackle against the best running back in the world. I mean, it's a crazy game, but it's the most competitive, but it's also the most enjoyable.
Yeah, it is cool. And you mentioned, you love sitting around and just talking baseball or talking basketball, seeing how the other side lives. Uh, it's fascinating, especially at the highest level, because we take for granted what we do. We've been doing it for so long. It's like you just wind us up and go, and we know exactly what to do. Once I get to the ballpark, I know exactly what to do before the game. I know my checkpoints. I know what I'm doing. I know who I'm facing. Uh, I've got all the preparation I need, and now the game starts, and I either execute or he executes. We'll find out who's going to be who's going to be successful tonight. But it's cool to see how the other side lives. Um, you won 2 rings in New England. You mentioned Belichick. He's the son of a coach as well.
Right.
Um, how was working? What made Belichick, do you think, so successful?
Well, I tell you, he was the first coach that ever taught me about situational football and the importance of it. And that was 20 something years ago, but he was unbelievable in front of the team. And truth be told, I thought he was terrible my first year. Like, I'm not kidding. I'm like, I'd fight with this guy every day, and I'd never get the defense. He has a style of play, and it was 3-4 cover 2 all the time, and I'm like, man, what the hell? This stinks. This guy doesn't know shit. And so I almost had my wife. She's like, no, it took you too long to get back to the NFL. Stint in Hutchinson JUCO and then coordinating Okie State to get back. But I'm like, man, this guy, I don't know. But then I call actually go back to Oklahoma State, and Les Miles had already just hired the D coordinator after he had offered it to me. I'm like, well, hell, I better go back. So I go back. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to learn this guy inside out. I'm going to know more football than he does. Well, once I took that attitude, I wanted to be a positive person, for him and coaching. Man, he was unbelievable. Like the first time he said something positive to our team was a year and a half. It took a year and a half of him. When I noticed, he identified what he wanted in a building. He wanted guys that love football. He wanted guys that were committed to football only, and that's what it took. And he was such a hard ass about it. But when he finally said, we played the Rams and we got our butts kicked at our place in Foxborough, our second year there, and he's like, you know what, guys, I'll tell you what, this is on me. This is on me, and if you guys play as hard as you did that way again, and you keep playing that hard on every week from here out, we'll play them again. I'll promise you this. This game's on me. You guys play exactly how you play. We'll get there again. And sure enough, we played him in the Super Bowl and beat the hell out of him. So this guy was amazing. But he had a picture. He's in charge of everything, but he saw the game at a different speed. And I like to say, he can't watch TV the way most people watch TV. We see the picture, right? We just see the picture. He sees the dials. Hey, we're watching an RCA today. We're watching, he sees everything. Like he's got a different vision. And it was amazing how much football I learned from him. He's the best coach that ever laced them up by far. And it's just amazing. Now he's got a son coaching. That's a hell of a football coach. Just went to Washington as their defensive coordinator. That kid's really good. But he learned from his father, and I expect him to be a head coach one day too. But it is really amazing all that he sees. Shoot, I can remember being this is a true story. All right, I hit one. I hope you got time for it. I'm watching a baseball game at Fenway Park. All right, we got Eric Mangini's brother-in-law. It was like the GM for the Indians. All right, Shapiro.
Right.
All right. So he gets his tickets. So we're like, all right, cool. So we go to Fenway Park. We take limos. We're out all day, drinking in the bars before we go to the game. All right. And the whole staff's there except Belichick. And we're having a hell of a time. Right. But kind of rainy all that day in Boston. And out of nowhere, he shows up. I was like, oh, shit. So I'm putting the beer down. Hey, coach, how you doing? We're watching the game. And all of a sudden, here comes the rain. And it gets a little delay, and we're talking baseball, the whole thing. Well, and we're outside kind of. Everybody else is inside. We're kind of out there, not getting rained on, but sitting there. And the play resumes. All right, and Dwight Evans, should be Hall of Famer, is coaching first base. All right, but he's not out there. So Belichick's like, Rob, don't they have what kind of coaches? I'm like, hey, they got a bench coach. I don't know what he does, but he's a bench coach. Now I know he's a right hand from you. They got pitching coach, hitting coaches. They got base coach. Really? First base coach? Yes, sir. They got first base coach. Oh, okay. Doesn't say anything. About that time, there's 2 pitches or 3 pitches go on. Now here comes Dwight Evans trotting out from the dugout. He kind of laughing. Fucking Belichick stands up. This is after we won the Super Bowl. He's like, wake the fuck up. Wake the fuck up. And Dwight Evans looks up. It's not like not everybody in New England knows who that is. That's Bill Belichick ripping his ass. Swear to God, it was hilarious. And I'm like,
Dewey.
Damn, he's had the great arm. But he's like, he can't see the game the way everybody else does. I don't care what he's watching.
And it's that's interesting because once again, baseball every day. We do this every day. So him waddling out there a little bit late to the naked eye to a Belichick's going, my coach is not in position. When
Oh,
really that first base coach, he's I hate to say they're irrelevant because they do
okay,
serve a purpose,
come on, babe.
serve a purpose. Right. Come on. They're going to make sure I get to first base. They're going to make sure I know the outs, the situation of the game, who's got the good arm in the outfield, which I pride myself as a base runner. I've kind of got a clue. But,
Yeah,
I might turn to the first base coach if I'm going to steal a base, and I wasn't a base stealer, but once in a while I'd sneak up on you. I want to get the time. And the time is from the time that pitcher starts his windup to the ball crosses home plate. That's what we call the time. I'll say, give me a time on him. And if I heard the right number, there's certain numbers where if it's over this, I can get a decent jump and I'll be safe. I know that.
right.
So that's what a first base coach is for. But when nobody's out there, it's really kind of unnecessary for the first base coach to even be there. Now, I've had guys that are picking signs. We're in a different era now. Now they got headsets and they're not even putting their fingers down anymore. But if you got a lazy catcher and you got a first base coach, you kind of sleep out of the box. And he'd come to me during the game and go, "Hey, Booney, I got the signs if you want them." I said, "Do I want them?" "Of course I
Oh
want them if you can pick them."
yeah,
But that's very rare, especially at the big league level. They're so aware of their surroundings and know that they're being watched wherever they could possibly be watched with the naked eye. So that didn't happen very often. But yeah, it'd be funny though for Belichick, especially in that city. You guys won the Super. Like, yeah, nobody
oh
knows
yeah,
who you are, Bill, and you're burying Dwight Evans,
oh,
one of the iconic players in
God.
the history of the Red Sox.
Yeah, oh yeah. Had the great arm, the -5 Stratomatic arm. He was stuffed. He was tough now.
Super Bowl week. You're in Vegas.
Yep.
Uh, what are the coaches and the players? All right, I'm going to be ultimate layman fan. What are the coaches and the players doing right now? 4 or 5 days out from the big game.
Right. Usually, coaches are off right after the season. They'll be off, and at most, you're off until the Super Bowl. Then you go back to work. We're off till Tuesday. Then we go back to work, and basically, you become bankers. 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And all you're doing is breaking down. Uh, you know, you're self evaluating what you did. Hey, we're good here. We're poor here. Need to keep this. I need to look at the top teams in the league, study them. Can we do some of this? And try to improve your team. We had a hell of an off season last year, and defensively, it really helped us. And that's the time of year you want to do that. And we added coverages that helped us. We ended up being the number one defense over the last 9 weeks. So when AP took over, which is over half the season, and people have no idea. Oh, this defense is great. No. The Raiders were number one. And that's something we are proud of, and that helped AP get his job as a head coach, and it helped me stay in the league again. So I love what we did, but a lot of that was accomplished during this time of year. And so once you catch your break, because it's a long season. I know it's not as long as baseball, but when you're working seven days a week, every day till midnight, I mean, it's a long season. But for 7 months. But when you do catch your breath, now I'm about ready to go again. I got to be like, all right, let me get back in there, kind of get a little antsy, and life can't wait. So, but it's a great time to relax. The players have to get away from football. They have got to get away from football. It's you know, as a coach, it's just mentally on you. As a player, it's physical, it's mental, it's everything, and you know how it is. I'm sure you couldn't wait to once the season was over to be able to breathe a little bit, get on that beach, and enjoy yourself.
Without a doubt. And then you're chomping at, especially when in your younger days, that January 1st hits and you're chomping at the bit to get back to spring training. For the Super Bowls that you've gone to, and there's always a 2 week gap from the last
Right.
playoff game to the Super Bowl. Uh, how is that? What are you? Is it seem like it takes forever to get there? The
Uh,
anticipation up to game time. What's those 2 weeks for you in the years that you've gone to Super Bowls?
well, I tell you, Belichick was unbelievable. Only two that I ever got in, we won. Belichick did this. He's like, hey, we're going to put this in, but we're going to hold back on this. because he's like, look, we're going to make sure we put in some elaborate stuff the first week. So we do that. So you have the attention of the guys, and they don't know it. So they have to work their butts off. And then when it gets that last week, you put all your calls in. You're going over the what you need to do, and so it takes forever to get there. It seems like. I remember, our last practice, my second Super Bowl, Willie McGinnis. I was coaching linebackers, the great Willie McGinnis, and we
USC.
had a kid. What's that?
USC.
Oh yeah, USC stud. Yep, no doubt. But so we had this tip on Carolina. They'd come in and they'd crack with a certain motion, and then they'd run the toss. So they'd run the toss play. But if he got in a little tighter, it was the off tackle run. So we kept working on that to see the difference. Well, this one kid comes in there, Tully Bannacane from California. He comes in, gives him a terrible look, knocks the hell out of him. Well, I had one of the greatest things. He goes, Rob, one of the greatest things you did today is you saved that stupid ass from getting his ass kicked, because he was going to kill him. But they were so ready by the end of the week. They are so ready to play. They can't stand it, and then, that's the whole thing. The game takes over an hour and a half longer than a normal game. So you have to pace your players during that game. It's unbelievable. It's a great feeling, obviously, when you win it, but it is an exhausting process just for the whole second week, then the whole game and all the, the flyovers, and it takes forever, the commercial breaks and the halftime. And it's something that people don't think of. I mean, our guys they were in there eating sandwiches at halftime. Nobody does that during the regular season, but it was a different game.
You played the Chiefs twice this year. I believe your Raiders played the Niners in the last preseason game, maybe. So, and I know preseason's different, but you beat you beat the Chiefs one of the games.
Right.
How are the Niners going to stop Mahomes and Kelce?
I tell you, it's we were the last team to beat the Chiefs, and it was on Christmas Day at their place. That was no easy feat, but I'll promise you, AP had done an unbelievable job of getting that team ready to go, and it started the first of the week, and it kept adding to it. And probably the greatest talk, and talks only last so long, but Tyson, until you get hit in the mouth. Nah, this one lasted a little longer, believe me. And our guys bought in, and we played as well as we could have played. I think San Francisco has to disguise their coverages, something they were atrocious at versus the Lions. Detroit knew every single play they were in on defense, so they have to do a better job. They're extremely talented, but they play better when they're ahead. So Kansas City will run the football on you early in the game, but you have to stop that, because if you don't, you'll get a heavy dose of it, and now you won't be able to stop anything. You won't be able to stop the run, the play action, or anything like that. So look for Kansas City to try to run the ball on them early. San Francisco has to do a better job disguising their coverages and their fronts. Their fronts are, when everybody's down there, to stop the run. Because if they play the way they did against Detroit, they're going to have a hard time stopping Kansas City. The quarterback is too good. He's the best in football. I think the best player in the league is Max Crosby. The second best is Patrick Mahomes. And you better be ready all day against this guy. He's the ultimate competitor. And, they have to play better than they did. In my opinion, I think they will. I think San Francisco will be hard to stop on offense because they got all those weapons, and Shanahan's tremendous, but he himself's got to do a better job closing games out in the Super Bowl.
Both really good defenses. You mentioned all the weapons that San Francisco has: Debo, McCaffrey, Kittle, Purdy. It was weird, Rob. I was at the game where who was the quarterback for before Purdy in San Francisco?
Well, I mean, they had the young kid. they
Now, it wasn't
drafted.
the kid, Garoppolo.
Oh, Jimmy, of
So
course, yeah, Jimmy.
yeah,
Yep.
so I go to the game. We're playing at Pebble Beach. We're playing golf, and San Fran was playing the next day. And I said, why don't we just stay a day? We'll drive to the Niner game. We'll go home. And I'm sitting in. I remember me and my buddy. We had a bet, and I forget who the Niners were playing, but it was against. We were taking the points, and Garofalo goes down. That was the first time Purdy came onto the field. And I
Right.
remember looking at my buddy, go, this bet's in the bag now. We got this kid. Nobody knew who he is. Here he is a year and a half later going to the Super Bowl and you know, nonstop. They want to bash him. Like, I think it's the people that just say, well, he's not that good. He's not. And now all of a sudden, all he does is keep winning and winning and winning. And maybe it's not Dan Marino style, but at the same time, he's done a hell of a job to this point. And the big thing I notice, once again, as a layman football guy, is he doesn't turn the ball over.
Right. Well, that's the biggest thing for him. I mean, he's remember the only reason he got in the game is that Trey Lance kid was hurt because remember he was
Right.
the backup. So now he's going to go to his third team guy. I know they drafted him, but shit, they drafted him last pick, so they couldn't have been that encouraged. But the guy is amazing. I know Anthony Lynn on that staff can't say enough good things about him. And when we practice him, this dude's got some leadership. All those great players around him, he's the leader. Like it's crazy. I don't, it's strange and it happened to USC when they had all those great linebackers, Malonga, the long-haired guy Matthews, and the other kid, and then Kaluka Maava, who's a little kid from Hawaii, just walk under this table. He was the leader, and I was like, "What?" He was, and I
Yeah.
ended up coaching that kid. He was tough as hell. But these guys, that leadership, just like it's genuine. Like guys just follow certain people, and I saw that with Brady. I was at Brady's first workout. The workout we drafted him from. I was at Michigan with Dick Rabine. I was working out the defensive guys. Rabine was working out Brady and a kid named Aaron Shea. And then we're like, there was nobody around in typical Patriot fashion. We're like, hey, let's go one-on-one over here. I don't know how legal that was, but we were killing him. Like, damn, this quarterback stinks. Well, Rabine couldn't rave about a guy enough. Like, man, he's like, oh, I love this kid. I'm like, really? We're on the plane right back. I like the Honey Jones. I like Hall. Ian Gold. These guys are great. He's like, yeah, this guy, he's a leader. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Well, we get the kid in the 6th round, and he stunk when we first got him, but it was so weird. Everybody followed the kid. It was like, the hell? He improved so much because it's Tom Brady. Well, hell, he's going to be great no matter what. He's going to make sure he's great. It was crazy. But some of those guys just kind of got it. And
Yeah. It's that it factor.
yeah, but he has it. And it was strange because at first I'm like, hell, I didn't believe it. But, you know, everybody would follow this dude. And then it became legit, So, this Purdy guy's done the same thing for San Francisco. I mean, and you could see the confidence Shanahan and everybody has in this kid. And every once in a while, he will force one, but they can live and die with that. They have a great defense that can help them, but yeah, I mean, it's not where you start in this league. It's how you play in it and how you finish. And I think this guy's really been a super quarterback.
It's amazing too, and you say that it factor. He's just got something about him that people want. The way he goes about his business. What I've noticed the most is the little interviews. With the Nick Bosa, a Kittle, McCaffrey. They always mention Purdy and how awesome he is. I mean,
Right.
I've never heard uh, so much love for a guy that's been in the league for like a year and a half. I mean, they're talking like they've been through battles and wars together, but they always, even if the question isn't about Purdy, somehow these guys, these stars on that team, they bring his name up and say, we wouldn't be where we are. The reason we are where we are is because of him. And it's pretty cool that just lends to the fact what you're saying is true. He's got that it factor.
No, he really does. And we have a young quarterback here with the Raiders that is he kind of sneaky it guy. This Aiden O'Connell. But he was turning the ball over. He was taking sacks. But as AP kept playing him, this kid kept getting better and better. And when your stars believe in you, like Devontae Adams, we had the best receiver in football. He believes in this kid. And when he believes in him, everybody else does. And he never turned the ball over. It's how you beat a Kansas City. You can't. The ball is so important, and and it's more than a clock manager. He makes some throws down the field. So we're hoping we can hit the same thing with Aiden O'Connell, and I'm sure he'll have unbelievable growth, just like I'm sure you did. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know from the first year to the second year in the NFL, that's when you make huge jumps because you know what this league's all about. You know what it takes. It's a major grind. These kids aren't used to it. And then now it's like, okay, now I understand what everybody says. Hey, I have to get in a routine. I have to have my, what I do because it's so important because the season's so long. And I think this kid will grow and end up being a star in this league.
All right. Chiefs, Niners. Rob Ryan's prediction. Who wins the game? It's
Well,
a
I'm going to
2-point
go
spread.
the Niners.
It's a 2-point spread. All right.
What's that?
It's only a 2-point spread. So
2-point spread. Well,
I'm not even going to ask you the points.
Right. I'm going to go with the Niners just because there's no way in hell I'm going to pick the Chiefs. Not in our division. No.
Yep.
But I just think they have too many weapons and they have a great defense that's got to play better. I think they'll be motivated this week to play better. And, I'm going to go with them, over Kansas City just because, eventually, I mean, Mahomes, the other receivers have to step their game up. They drop the ball too much for me. And I'm gonna go San Francisco, but no slap at Kansas City because they're tremendous. They're there every year. We got to do something about that. We know the challenge ahead of us, but I'll say San Francisco,
Right.
and I'll go by 3.
By 3. All right. Well,
I
now
feel
you're getting technical. Rob, this has been great. I want to mention for those of you listening to the Boone podcast, Rob is he's working with an organization called Backwards K. I'm going to let him explain it to you. So go ahead. It's your
Well,
forum.
it's really
Tell the people
it's my
listening.
wife's charity. It's Backwards K program, Backwards K project, and it's Athletes Against Child Trafficking. And what we're trying to do is have everybody under one banner, every sport, and the greatest fans in the world. We got these great athletes in every sport, and we want to combine every one of them to get them to end child trafficking. And the way we're doing it is a symbol backwards K, and it started with baseball. Hey, backwards K. Well, that means strikeout. Well, caught you looking. Well, we want to strike out child trafficking, so that's the baseball hat. We got hats. We got Oski hat for intercept in football. We had sack 'em, quarterback K. We got puck hats. We've got every hat you can think of. Dunk hats for basketball, spike for volleyball, and so on. We've got gold medalists. We've got Sabrina for the basketball, the best women's player in the world. So we have all these great people, but what really is missing with attacking child trafficking is, and there's so many great sponsors out there, but they're none of them all together. And what we're doing is the nuts and bolts for everything. We're identifying the problem. Well, first of all, we're going to educate the people, and there's a program for it to educate our kids in schools. Then it's educate the police on what to look for. Then it's the internet. We've got people that are attacking the internet there. Then we're identifying these people when they come into big events, like It's a Penalty. They identify these people and they're on the lookout. And then we have to have people that go in and get them. And we've got an unbelievable guy that trains police, but he actually goes in and rescues people in America, not just international. And so that happens. And then we ultimately have to provide for the people that have been affected. So that's what Backwards K does. And we'd appreciate anything people could do. They could look it up. We have a heck of an auction for Sunday. It ends on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. And I mean, there's some awesome stuff on there. There's like, you can rent a tank you shoot a tank, all night and things like that. We've got great places. People have been so gracious to donate, but we're not having our official launch until later, but we've got our soft launch going on Saturday at the Ahern Hotel from 1 to 6. But we'd love for people to check it out. Backwards K Project and Athletes Against Child Trafficking. It's going to be a wonderful cause, and hopefully people can check it out.
Very cool. Well, Rob Ryan, I appreciate you coming on, man. This was cool. It was fun to catch up. Best of luck to you going into next year. Best of luck to the Las Vegas Raiders. What's it like? All these years, and all of a sudden you're in Vegas playing football. Baseball's coming. Oakland A's are supposedly coming. We'll see if that comes to fruition. I still have my druthers about it because they get nervous with baseball. Because unlike football, it's once a week. You come in, you kind of hunker down, you get ready for that game. But baseball, you got people running wild in that city for 4 days at a time. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. I know they're a little nervous about it.
It's going to take some discipline.
Yeah, it's going to take some discipline. Well, thank you again, once again, everybody listening, watching the Boone podcast. I appreciate you tuning in. Go check out Backwards K. And until next time, thanks for listening. We'll see you then.